I woke up to a bone-chilling cold seeping into my knees. What greeted my eyes wasn't the gypsum ceiling of my mortgaged apartment, but the icy blue stone tiles of Yangtze Palace. The night wind swept through the desolate corridor, carrying the incessant chirping of insects. Memories flooded back. Zai Lingyi, a disgraced concubine from a destitute official family, had accidentally broken concubine Hua's ancestral vase and was punished to kneel here for 3 hours. What terrible luck, I mumbled, rubbing my numb knees. I could tell at a glance that vase was a fake, imported from the black market on the west side of the city. It probably didn't cost even 5 taels of silver. Concubine Hua dared to demand 1,000 gold for it, forcing someone to kneel until they were crippled. Such tyranny was truly outrageous. My stomach rumbled like a war drum. Since transmigrating, I hadn't had a single grain of rice, only a belly full of northeast wind. I glanced up at the eunuchs on guard, sleeping soundly in the corner of the corridor. Good, the time has come. I'm not some romance novel heroine who will sit here crying, waiting for the male lead to save me. I need food to survive. I remembered that behind Yangtze Palace was concubine Hua's private lotus pond, rumored to be stocked with highly prized ornamental koi fish for viewing. Koi fish! To a hungry person, they're just swimming protein. A moment later, in a secluded corner behind the rock garden, a small campfire crackled, and the fragrant smell of grilled fish wafted up. I squatted on a rock, turning a plump fish skewer, my eyes glued to the skin as it turned golden. "Smells good, doesn't it?" A deep male voice sounded behind me, cold as the wind whistling through a crack in the door. I didn't flinch, just paused my hand slightly. Life experience told me that in this interconnected palace, only 2 types of people would appear in the middle of the night: assassins or a high-ranking noble on a secret inspection. I turned my head. Under the faint moonlight, a man in moonwhite robes, holding a folding fan, stood with the casual grace of someone strolling through their own garden. This face, Tusk, truly a masterpiece of creation, but his gaze at me was as sharp as a beetle nut knife. I quickly glanced down at his waist, a jade pendant carved with a coiling dragon amidst clouds made of top-grade suet jade. A ding went off in my head. A 5-clawed dragon. In this land, apart from Emperor Zhao Xingzhai, anyone wearing this must be from the imperial family. How should I handle this situation? If I were to kneel and cry, "Long live the emperor," it would mean admitting I, Zai Lingyi, was stealing fish from his favored concubine, a crime greater than stealing from the emperor, worse than beheading. If I pretended not to know, a mischievous smile played on my lips. "All right, Zhao Xingzhai, if you enjoy secret night inspections, this lady will play a role with you." I turned back to continue grilling the fish, my tone nonchalant. "Want some? 50 taels apiece. Cash and carry, no bargaining." Zhao Xingzhai paused, seemingly surprised by my indifferent attitude. He folded his fan and calmly sat down opposite me. "Aren't you afraid I'll tell tales? This is concubine Hua's precious fish." I sprinkled some chili salt I just pilfered from the imperial kitchen, chuckling. "My friend, dressed like this, you must be a night guard sneaking out to catch some air, aren't you? Wandering around the imperial harem in the dead of night, you're not exactly innocent yourself. We're both grasshoppers on the same rope." He raised an eyebrow, a flicker of interest in his eyes. "Grasshopper, quite a big mouth you have. Which palace maid are you?" I tore off a piece of hot fish, blew on it, and put it in my mouth. "Me, I'm Imperial Concubine Zai, the unlucky one who was punished to kneel. But enough of that, it just makes me angry. Want some? I see you're practically drooling over this fish." He chuckled, a deep, magnetic sound. He extended his hand. "Let me taste Imperial Concubine Zai's cooking." I held out my hand to him. "Where's the money?" He looked stunned, fumbled around his person for a moment, then unfastened the dragon jade pendant and handed it to me. "I don't have small silver coins. Take this for now." I took the jade pendant, secretly laughing. "Excellent, daring to give me a disguised imperial seal. It seems you want to play big too. All right, generous friend, this entire fish is yours." Zhao Xingzhai took the skewer and ate with refined elegance, despite gnawing on stolen food. After finishing, he wiped his mouth and looked at me meaningfully. "You are truly bold, daring to steal a favored concubine's fish and even daring to extort from me. Aren't you afraid the emperor will have your head if he finds out?" Here comes the juicy part. I picked up a pebble and tossed it into the murky water, my tone one of weariness mixed with contempt. The emperor, what does he know? All day long he only dotes on concubine Hua, his eyes must be clouded by fish oil. I heard he has kidney deficiency, which is why he only favors concubine Hua to save his energy. Spurt, Zhao Xingzhai, who was drinking tea from a gourd he carried, spat it straight out. His handsome face darkened, and veins pulsed on his forehead. Who told you the emperor has kidney deficiency? I watched his reaction, utterly gleeful inside, but maintaining an innocent, naive expression. The entire harem is buzzing with rumors. Think about it, with so many beauties in the 3 palaces and 6 courtyards, why does he only stick to concubine Hua? If it's not because he's powerless to follow his heart, then what is it? Tusk, being an emperor is tough too. He has the title but not the substance. Zhao Xingzhai's hand clenched the fan until his knuckles turned white. He stared at me as if he wanted to devour me whole, but then suddenly burst into a soft chuckle, his gaze becoming deep and inscrutable. Your analysis is quite insightful. Xiling, I remember your name now. Just call me Zhao San. Why remember? If you have money, come back and buy more fish next time. I stood up, dusted off my bottom, and clutched the jade pendant. All right, I'm going back now before I'm discovered. Thanks for the jade, friend Zhao San. I turned and walked away without looking back. The next morning, I was sleeping in to make up for last night when Eunuch Li, the chief eunuch beside the emperor, personally came to deliver an imperial decree. An imperial decree has arrived. I calmly got out of bed, adjusted my clothes, and knelt. Eunuch Li looked at me with a mix of surprise and pity, then read aloud. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees, Imperial concubine Zai, for her meritorious moon-gazing last night, her sharp wit, and unique insights, we are greatly impressed. We hereby bestow 10 taels of gold and promote her to Imperial concubine Zai. Eunuch Li rolled up the decree and leaned close to my ear, his voice full of hidden meaning. The emperor also added a personal message for you, Imperial concubine. The jade pendant we gave you, keep it safe. Come to Cunning Palace tonight. We will personally let you verify whether the rumors of our kidney deficiency are true or false. I took the imperial decree, a half-smile playing on my lips. Please trouble the eunuch to relay to his majesty that your humble concubine will certainly prepare thoroughly and will not disappoint his majesty. Eunuch Li shuddered and quickly departed. News of me, an invisible figure in the harem, being promoted and summoned to Cunning Palace for imperial favor spread like a strong northeast wind. Within just an hour, the dilapidated threshold of Yangtze Palace was almost flattened by eunuchs and palace maids from other palaces who came to gossip and curry favor. I sat on my chair, holding a list of gifts, my mouth stretched into a wide smile, but my eyes were icy cold. Noble Lady Song sent 2 fake, second-grade jade hairpins. Beauty Chen sent a bolt of Suzhou silk, last year's leftover stock, which smelled musty. Truly, people cling to success but are stingy to a fault. I tossed the pile of gifts aside, only keeping a few practical silver shards. While I was busy counting money, a chirping voice like an oriole sounded from outside. Big sister, I heard the emperor has taken notice of you. My heart is overflowing with joy, so I rushed here to congratulate you. I looked up. The person who entered was a delicate and graceful beauty in a pink dress, her eyes welling up as if about to cry. There she is, Liu Ruyan, Imperial concubine Liu, famous for her master of crocodile tears and playing the victim. According to the original owner's memories, Liu Ruyan was the one who incited her to offend concubine Hua, leading to the original owner's punishment, while Liu Ruyan reaped the benefits from afar. So, little sister is here. I didn't stand up, merely twitched my lips dismissively. Did you come empty-handed, or did you bring anything worthwhile? The smile on Liu Ruyan's face stiffened for a second, but quickly returned to her demure expression. Big sister, you jest? I know you're about to serve His Majesty, so I specially brought this box of jade radiance powder. It's my family's secret recipe. Applied to the skin, it will make it as smooth as porcelain, ensuring His Majesty will be utterly captivated. She placed an exquisite brocade box on the table and pushed it towards me. I picked up the powder box, opened the lid, and sniffed it. A rich, sweet fragrance, but subtly mingled with a faint, pungent smell of raw lacquer. If applied lightly, this stuff would cause redness. Severe application would make one swell up like a waterlogged bun. Trying to disfigure me before my big night? A common trick. How precious, I said, closing the lid and smiling with sparkling eyes. Such a good thing, I can't bear to use it alone. Thank you, little sister. Liu Ruyan saw me accept the gift, a flicker of smugness in her eyes. Big sister, remember to use it right away? The results are immediate. Well, I won't disturb your preparations any longer. With that, she delicately departed. She must have been certain I'd show up tonight with a swollen face to scare Zhao Xingjai. As soon as her shadow disappeared, I called my only remaining trusted maid, Xiao Tao. Xiao Tao, take this box to the Imperial Garden. I remember concubine Hua's precious pet dog often strolls there at this time. What do you plan to do, Imperial concubine? Xiao Tao trembled. Do good deeds, I chuckled coldly. Help the concubine's dog with its skin. An hour later in the Imperial Garden, I was snacking on melon seeds on the pavilion, enjoying the breeze, pretending to admire the scenery. Not far away, concubine Hua was walking her pure white Pekingese dog, carrying herself with a dignified and arrogant demeanor. Suddenly, her precious pet began to yelp miserably. It rolled on the grass, frantically rubbed against concubine Hua's legs, and then began scratching wildly, sending fur flying everywhere. Beneath its fur, redness and swelling began to appear. Ah, what's wrong with my precious baby? Concubine Hua shrieked, her face turning pale. Imperial physician, call an imperial physician quickly. Just then, Liu Ruyan happened to pass by. Seeing the commotion, she rushed over, feigning concern. Imperial noble consort, what's happening? The dog, driven mad by the itching, recognized the familiar scent on Liu Ruyan. It was the same fragrance as the powder and lunged at her, tearing at her clothes. Ah, help! Liu Ruyan was knocked down by the dog, screaming in terror. During the struggle, the jade radiance powder box that I had Xiao Tao secretly slip into the dog's toys earlier flew out and landed right at concubine Hua's feet. Concubine Hua picked up the powder box, sniffed it, and then glared at the disheveled Liu Ruyan. Jade radiance powder, the smell of raw lacquer. Liu Ruyan, you are truly audacious. How dare you put poison in my dog's things? Is this not too great an injustice to your humble concubine? Liu Ruyan intended to say that she had given it to me, but saying so would be admitting her intent to harm me. She choked, her face drained of all color. Slap, a crisp slap echoed. Concubine Hua struck without any mercy, leaving 5 clear fingerprints on Liu Ruyan's face. Wretch, how dare you harm this concubine's precious pet? Guards, slap her mouth for me. I spat out a melon seed shell with a asterisk phlegm asterisk sound, feeling utterly delighted. Quite a show, isn't it? It was that familiar voice again. I turned to see Zhao Xingjai standing there. He had changed into brilliant golden imperial robes, but still held the same folding fan from yesterday, his face full of interest as he looked down at the chaos below. I didn't bother to bow, offering him a handful of melon seeds. Your Majesty, have some? Caramel flavor, absolutely delicious. Zhao Xingjai looked at the melon seeds, then at Liu Ruyan, who was crying and begging, and concubine Hua, who was throwing a tantrum. A smile played on his lips. You did it. What is His Majesty saying? I blinked innocently. Your humble concubine is just a small imperial concubine. How would I dare to touch the grand concubine's pet, or my good sister, imperial concubine Liu? It must be karma. Zhao Xingjai chuckled, leaning down close to my face. The distance was so near that I could smell the scent of ambergris on him. Borrowing a knife to kill, one arrow hitting 2 targets. Zai Lingyi, we find that you're very suited to this man-eating harem. I pulled back slightly, covering my mouth with a graceful smile, but my eyes were full of calculation. Your Majesty flatters me too much. Your humble concubine merely wishes to protect her beauty for tonight's verification of your imperial body. At the mention of tonight, Zhao Xingjai's eyes darkened, becoming more dangerous than ever. He grabbed my wrist, pulling me to my feet. Good, the show is over. Imperial concubine Liu has been slapped, and concubine Hua is busy with her dog. Now it's your turn to pay your debt to us. Go where? I started. Kyanking Palace. He smirked, his smile carrying a hint of mischief. We've had people prepare bathwater and a few interesting things. We hope Imperial concubine Zai has enough stamina to last. I gulped. Damn it, this guy really holds a grudge. Your Majesty, perhaps we can discuss money first? Your humble concubine finds the national treasury to be. No discussion, he cut me off, dragging me along. Tonight, we only talk about kidneys. As I was dragged away, I looked back at the chaotic scene behind me. Liu Ruyan was clutching her face, crying, while concubine Hua was holding her dog and cursing. Oh well, excuse me, two sisters, this lady has to go meet KPIs with a demanding boss. I hope I don't get my salary deducted tonight. Kyanking Palace was vast, red candles flickered, and the faint scent of ambergris couldn't conceal the palpable sense of tension. The palace maids stripped me naked, scrubbed me clean like a sacrificial chicken, then wrapped me tightly in a brocade blanket embroidered with dragons and phoenixes, and carried me straight onto the imperial bed. At this moment, I felt no different than a fried spring roll waiting to be served at a banquet. Zhao Xingzhai was leaning against the headboard, holding an imperial memorial, but his eyes were fixed on me, the mummy lying helplessly on the bed. He wore white inner robes, his black hair falling loosely, which diminished some of his imperial majesty but added 10 parts of deadly allure. Well, Imperial concubine Zai, are you mentally prepared for the verification? He put down the memorial, leaning closer to me. His shadow enveloped my vision, and an invisible pressure made my scalp tingle. Slowly, he began to remove the layers of brocade blanket. His movements were very slow, as if unwrapping a gift, but his eyes were sharp enough to strip bare another's soul. I swallowed hard, my eyes quickly scanning the room. The incense burner was made of solid gold, studded with rubies, worth a fortune. The screen was made of snow silkworm silk, a tribute, 1,000 gold per foot. Even the pillow he was leaning on was embroidered with real gold thread. Tusk, truly a capitalist's den. In this situation, if I resisted, I'd die for offending the emperor. If I complied, it was too much of a loss. I hadn't even had a chance to value myself or negotiate my terms before having to sell myself that's against Zai Lingyi's business principles. Wait, I shrieked, shrinking into the corner of the bed like a boiled shrimp, clutching the edge of the blanket tightly. Zhao Xingzhai's hand paused in midair, his sword-like brows furrowing. Why are you scared now? You were so bold when you said we had kidney deficiency. We thought Imperial concubine Zai had courage as vast as the heavens. Your Majesty, that was a misunderstanding. I forced a smile, trying to use every wrinkle of my brain to cover up. Your humble concubine said that to protect your honor, it was a sacrifice for a greater cause. Oh, he raised an eyebrow, looking like he was watching a play, clearly not believing a word. How is calling us impotent protection? Your thinking is truly unique. Exactly, I nodded frantically, my face unflushed, heart not pounding, smoothly spinning a tale. Think about it, Your Majesty. With 3,000 beauties in the harem, everyone wants to fight for favor like hungry tigers stalking prey. If they knew you were unmatched in prowess, they would tear each other apart, fighting for every night, leaving the harem in constant turmoil. You would also be exhausted from mediating. Your humble concubine spread this rumor to lessen their hopes, to help you reduce worries, and to preserve your imperial body so you can focus on state affairs. This is loyalty to the emperor and love for the country, which heaven can witness. Zhao Xingzhai burst into laughter, flicking my forehead with a painful asterisk thump. If that mouth of yours were to become a persuader, the world would surely fall into chaos. White could be turned black. All right, let's put that aside. How do you intend to serve us tonight? Don't tell us you plan to use your clever tongue to get out of this. He leaned closer again, his hot breath fanning my neck, and his mischievous hand began to slip under the blanket. I knew I couldn't avoid it forever, but I, Zai Lingyi, am a practical person. Everything must have a benefit. I took a deep breath, threw off the blanket, and sat up, looking him straight in the eyes. Your Majesty, let's make a deal, a mutually beneficial deal. Zhao Xingzhai looked stunned. Perhaps it was the first time in his life he had seen a concubine dare to sit cross-legged in a red bodice, with disheveled hair, discussing business with him right on the imperial bed. A deal? He crossed his arms, leaning back against the headboard, intrigued. What do you have to sell, your beauty or this clever tongue? Your humble concubine sells high-level human resource management solutions. I pointed out the window, towards the dark harem, filled with hidden conflicts. Your Majesty, you see, the power of the imperial relatives in court is growing. Concubine Hua's father is the prime minister, his power shaking the court and the land. The Empress's father is the grand general holding military power. You favor concubine Hua to curb the Empress, but you also fear the Hua family becoming too arrogant. You are troubled by this power struggle, aren't you? Zhao Xingzhai's eyes sharpened, his mocking smile vanished, replaced by the terrifying profundity of an emperor. Continue. If you speak wrongly, your head will fall to the ground right now. I knew I had hit his soft spot. I have to win this gamble. Your humble concubine has no strong family background. My father is just a minor 7th-rank official, completely harmless to the throne. Your humble concubine also has a knack for annoying others and an unmatched thick skin, as your Majesty has seen. Your humble concubine is willing to be your sword, to stir up this muddy puddle like a catfish. Your humble concubine will help you deal with those arrogant concubines, attracting the fire and jealousy towards myself, so you can free your hands to deal with the old foxes in the front court. Sounds reasonable. Zhao Xingzhai tapped his fingers on his thigh, his eyes calculating. So, what is the price you demand? I spread my hand, beginning to count on my fingers, meticulously calculating. First, money. Your humble concubine is a pragmatist. Work must have clear compensation. Each time I provoke a high-ranking concubine, imperial concubine and higher, a reward of 50 taels of gold. For a grand concubine, 100 taels. Second, life insurance. You must ensure that this humble concubine's small life is not taken in the shadows. If your humble concubine is beaten or punished, you must compensate for emotional damage and medical expenses. Third, Yangtze Palace is too dilapidated. Every time it rains, I have to hold basins to catch water. In winter, the wind howls through, chilling me to the bone. You must immediately allocate funds for its repair and install the best heating system. I paused for a moment, then added, "Oh, and I must have a vacation system and overtime pay if summoned for imperial favor during holidays and festivals." Zhao Xingzhai stared at me for a long time, then suddenly threw his head back and laughed heartily. His clear laughter echoed throughout the palace, dispelling the suffocating atmosphere of before. "Very well, Zai Lingyi, you are more interesting than we imagined. No one has ever dared to bargain with us as if buying vegetables at the market. We approve." I breathed a sigh of relief. "So, can your humble concubine return tonight? The contract takes effect tomorrow." I cautiously tried to slip off the bed to find my clothes. Go where? Zhao Xingzhai grabbed the waist of my bodice, pulled me back, and pressed me onto the soft brocade mattress. "Ah, didn't we already agree?" I cried out in alarm, flailing my limbs. "A gentleman's word." "The agreement is that you will be a human shield." He leaned down and whispered enchantingly into my ear, his hot breath fanning my sensitive earlobe. "But to be a credible human shield, for the entire harem to hate you to the bone, you must be favored to a shocking degree tonight. Without evidence, how will people believe it?" With that, he waved his hand, and the golden curtains dropped, obscuring the imperial bed and isolating us from the outside world. He tossed me a plate of melon seeds and a go board. "Let's play. We'll take black, you take white. Each time we capture one of your pieces, you must let out a truly miserable shriek." I was speechless, this perverted emperor. So, that night at Cunning Palace, a tragicomedy of unparalleled proportions unfolded. Zhao Xingzhai calmly played Go, occasionally sipping tea. As for me, Zai Lingyi, I simultaneously crunched melon seeds, timed my movements to make the bed shake loudly with my legs, and occasionally let out fake, mournful groans. "Your Majesty, a little gentler, I'm so tired." "Ah, damn it, you captured my knight?" Each time I stopped because my mouth was tired, Zhao Xingzhai would toss a gold ingot onto the board. "Continue, not enough climax yet. Louder, the eunuchs outside have sharp ears." For the sake of money, I screamed until my throat was hoarse. Truly, money earned from capitalists through blood and sweat is never easy. The next morning, I emerged from Cunning Palace with eyes as dark as a panda's. Stumbling, my limbs aching from shaking the bed and playing Go all night. The eunuchs and palace maids on duty outside looked at me with a mix of horror, admiration, and a touch of fear. They whispered amongst themselves, their eyes fixed on my neck where I had pinched myself a few times to create red marks. The Imperial Affairs Bureau recorded it in their ledger. Last night, Imperial concubine Zai received imperial favor. Water was called 3 times, the imperial bed shook, and cries echoed until the 3rd watch, depleting the imperial body. Even more horrific rumors spread, distorted beyond recognition. Zai Lingyi possessed supreme bedroom techniques from the western regions, draining the emperor's yang energy, causing his majesty to be bedridden this morning and unable to attend court on time. I clutched the heavy pouch of gold in my sleeve, listening to Xiao Tao recount these rumors, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Drained his yang energy, my ass, I was drained of my labor. He woke up early this morning to practice swordplay, as vigorous as a young ox, while I could barely crawl back to my palace. No sooner had I returned to Yangtze Palace, and before my bottom could even settle on the rickety wooden chair, a richly dressed, unfamiliar eunuch burst in. His shrill voice rang out. An imperial decree has arrived. Imperial concubine Zai, for her meritorious service and pleasing the dragon's face, is promoted to Imperial concubine Zai. Bestowed 10 bolts of silk and brocade, 2 golden kingfisher feather hairpins, and a 500-tael silver note. I looked at the pile of gifts stacked in the courtyard, glittering under the morning sun. Then I glanced out the door, seeing the resentful, jealous, bloodshot eyes of concubines from neighboring palaces, secretly peering over as if wanting to throw spears at me. From today on, I had officially become public enemy number 1. Xiao Tao, I shouted, brimming with energy, sweeping away all fatigue. Close the door and count the money. Early that morning, the imperial kitchen, accidentally, served rotten porridge. At noon, the Imperial Household Department reported running out of charcoal, even in the middle of winter. In the afternoon, while strolling, I was accidentally splashed with dirty water. Xiao Tao was so angry she almost cried, wiping the floor and muttering, "Imperial concubine, they're going too far. You're currently favored, how dare they?" I sat cross-legged on the chair, leisurely biting into an apple. This apple I had to pay out of my own pocket to have a eunuch smuggle it in from outside, I said. Xiao Tao, you're still too naive. The emperor's favor is the most illusory thing. It's here today, gone tomorrow. Only money is true love, the strongest shield. The more they hate me, the more curious they become about me. Those are potential customers. Customers? Xiao Tao looked bewildered. Yes, just listen, no need to understand. Now go hang up the sign for me. 3 days later, the gloomy Yangtze Palace transformed into the hottest entertainment hub in the Forbidden City. I had a vermilion and gold-leafed wooden sign hung right outside the door. Zai's Beauty and Psychological Counseling Club. Entry fee, 5 taels of silver. Initially, concubines came only to curse, secretly plot, or see what kind of fox spirit had bewitched the emperor and what she truly looked like. But I had grasped their psychology. Little sister, your skin is so dry, no wonder the emperor doesn't like to touch it. Try this cucumber and honey mask, it's a secret recipe. Big sister, those dark circles under your eyes, is it from sleepless nights of jealousy? Come play a round of mahjong to relieve stress, guaranteed to make you forget your worries. After just a few free trials, the concubines, who had been bored stiff in the palace, practically growing mushrooms all year round, were immediately drawn into my novel entertainment. I transformed mahjong into a simpler, easier-to-play version, opened tarot card reading services, using a set of tam cut cards with added illustrations, and sold homemade organic skincare creams. Yangtze Palace was as bustling as a marketplace. The clinking of mahjong tiles, the cheerful chatter, and most importantly, the clinking sound of silver shards falling into my money box. That night, as the gambling den reached its most exciting moment, I was passionately serving as the dealer for 3 imperial concubines and 2 noble ladies in a dice game. Agarwood smoke curled upwards, and the atmosphere was as tense as a Las Vegas casino. Place your bets, odd or even. Once you place your bet, there's no going back, no refunds. I bet odd 50 taels. Noble Lady Song slammed the table, her eyes bloodshot. I bet even, this entire jade bracelet. Beauty Lee wasn't to be outdone. I smiled with sparkling eyes, preparing to open the bowl, when bang, the door of Yangtze Palace was kicked open. Cold wind swept in, extinguishing several candles. A tall figure stood towering in the doorway, a black cloak billowing around him, radiating menace. "How dare you, who permitted gambling in the palace?" The familiar voice made all the concubines jump, their faces drained of all color. Noble Lady Song, terrified, slipped and fell under the table. Beauty Lee hurriedly hid her jade bracelet in her bodice. I squinted. Although he was disguised as a guard, that domineering aura was unmistakable. Zhao Xingzhai stepped in, looked around my messy gambling den, his gaze settling on the pile of silver shards on the table. The concubines knelt, trembling like quails. "Your Majesty, spare us." Knowing I couldn't escape, I stood up, dusted off my sleeves, and offered a standard, professional smile. "Oh, what a distinguished guest. What brings young Master Zhao to my humble abode at this late hour? What a pity we're already closed. Perhaps you could come back tomorrow." Zhao Xingzhai waved his hand, signaling the concubines to withdraw. They scurried off as fast as they could, as if granted amnesty, abandoning their bets. He walked to the table, picked up a silver ingot with his fingertips, clucking his tongue. "Imperial concubine Zai, we recall granting you funds to repair your palace, not capital to open an illegal gambling den." According to Great Zhou law, the crime of organizing gambling in the palace, light punishment is flogging. Heavy punishment is banishment to the cold palace. I poured him a cup of the cheap tea I bought in bulk, calmly replying, "Your Majesty, your words are mistaken. This isn't gambling. This is a cultural exchange activity and a way to train the logical thinking of our sisters. You see, since this place opened, the harem has become much more harmonious. No one has time to fight or poison each other anymore because they're busy trying to recoup their losses. Your humble concubine is helping you stabilize your rear palace." Zhao Xingzhai stared at me, then suddenly burst into a soft chuckle. He pulled up a chair and sat down, propping his leg on the table, the very table I used for dice. "You're very good at making excuses, but law is law. We cannot turn a blind eye." My heart skipped a beat. Was he really going to punish me? I've just started to accumulate some capital. However, he drawled, his dark eyes looking at me with calculation. "If Imperial concubine Zai is willing to pay business tax, then we can consider granting you an operating license." I breathed a sigh of relief, but immediately became highly vigilant. It's about money again. This emperor is truly a merchant disguised as the son of heaven. "How much tax?" I asked, clutching my money box tightly. He spread his 5 long, slender, beautiful fingers before me. 5%. "Deal," I quickly sealed the deal. "No." Zhao Xingzhai smiled a beautiful, blossoming smile, but his heart was as dark as ink. 50%. "What?" I shrieked, almost jumping onto the table. "Are you robbing me? Rent, tea, and water, connections, all my effort, you want to split it in half. No way, you might as well just chop off my head." "Very well." Zhao Xingzhai stood up, pretending to call for someone. "Eunuch Li, issue a decree to seal Yangtze Palace and confiscate all gambling proceeds to the public treasury." Wait, I rushed over, clinging tightly to his arm, forcing a crooked smile. "Your Majesty, we're family, let's negotiate slowly. 30%, that's my final offer." Zhao Xingzhai looked down at me, his gaze sweeping over my arm clinging to his, a slight smirk on his lips. 40%, no bargaining. Furthermore, we want a lifetime VIP pass, free for all services, including verifying our imperial body. I gnashed my teeth, asterisk clench, blood-sucking capitalist, stingy emperor. "Deal," I bitterly nodded. 40% was better than losing everything. "Good girl." He reached out and stroked my head like a small cat, then casually scooped up a handful of silver shards from the table and put them into his sleeve. "This is this month's deposit." I watched my silver disappear, my heart aching as if being cut. Just as the atmosphere was both tense and ambiguous, a clamor suddenly erupted outside. Torches brightly lit up a corner of the sky. The heavy footsteps of the Imperial Guards echoed. "Arrest her! Arrest the demoness of Yangtze Palace." My poor door was kicked open for the second time that night. This time, the person who entered was none other than concubine Hua. Behind her was an entire retinue of eunuchs, palace maids, and a squad of Imperial Guards. Concubine Hua pointed straight at my face, her heavily made-up face contorted with anger. "Your Majesty, Thankfully you are here. Your humble concubine received a report that Zai Lingyi gathered many people, used dark magic to bewitch hearts, and secretly traded forbidden items from outside the palace. She is a demoness intending to disrupt the court. I froze for 5 seconds. What? Dark magic? I looked at my pile of hand-drawn playing cards and jars of skincare cream made from pork fat and cucumber. These are forbidden items. Zhao Xingzhai raised an eyebrow, shedding his mocking demeanor and returning to being a dignified and cold emperor. He clasped his hands behind his back, his voice deep and powerful. Grand concubine, who is the demoness you speak of? Concubine Hua, overjoyed as if she had found gold to hear the emperor speak, rushed forward and knelt, crying. Your Majesty, it's her. Your humble concubine heard she uses some liquid on the concubines' faces that captivates them. And every day they come here to offer her money. This is surely a charm from mahjong. Please, Your Majesty, execute her to appease the harem. I was speechless. This young lady's imagination is truly rich. She must have read too many wuxia novels. I glanced at Zhao Xingzhai. He was also looking at me, a knowing, mocking glint in his eyes. His gaze seemed to say, Partner, it's your turn to perform. Resolve this smoothly, and from the 40% profit, we'll consider reducing our share to 39%. All right, Zhao Xingzhai wants to see a show, does he? This lady will give you all a spectacular exorcism. I took a deep breath, flung my sleeves, and stepped forward, directly facing concubine Hua. Imperial noble consort, you say I use dark magic. Then let me show you what real dark magic is. I slowly walked towards the table displaying my handmade skincare creams. Under concubine Hua's scrutinizing gaze and Zhao Xingzhai's expectant, interested eyes, I picked up a jar of cucumber mask with pork fat essence. Imperial noble consort says this is a charm that bewitches hearts. I opened the lid of the jar, and the fresh scent of cucumber wafted out. Then let me prove it to you. I glanced around, then pointed at Eunuch Li, who was standing deferentially beside the emperor. Eunuch Li, excuse me for a moment. Your skin has been a bit dry and cracked lately. Eunuch Li looked dumbfounded. Before he could react, I pulled him over and pressed him into a chair. I swiftly applied the opaque white cream to his face, massaging it with a modern 5-step spa procedure. Facelift massage, wrinkle reduction, returning your skin to that of a 20-year-old. I mumbled as if reciting a spell. 5 minutes later, I used a warm towel to wipe Eunuch Li's face clean. Oh! The crowd of palace maids and eunuchs exclaimed in astonishment. Eunuch Li's wrinkled, dry skin, after instant hydration, suddenly became plump, rosy, and smooth as a baby's. Eunuch Li touched his face, his eyes welling up with emotion. Imperial concubine, your humble servant feels younger by many years. I turned to concubine Hua, who was standing with her mouth agape, and shrugged. Imperial noble consort, you see? This is called beauty science, knowledge, not dark magic. If you don't believe me, perhaps you'd like to try a little on the crow's feet at the corners of your eyes. Concubine Hua, infuriated, stamped her foot. You, how dare you imply this concubine is old? Your Majesty, look at her audacious words. Zhao Xingzhai, who had been silently watching the show until now, flicked his sleeve. His voice was cold, but a hidden smile played on his lips. Enough, concubine Hua. You are supposed to be the future mother of the empire, yet you believe baseless rumors, making a fuss and bringing guards to arrest a concubine who is merely doing beauty treatments. If this gets out, what dignity is left? He paused for a moment, then declared coldly, Concubine Hua is fined 3 months' allowance, confined for 10 days for reflection, and the fine shall be remitted to the public treasury. At the word money, my eyes lit up. Zhao Xingzhai glanced at me, then gave me a subtle wink. Don't worry, there will be a percentage share. The dark magic case ended with concubine Hua angrily leaving, while the reputation of Zai's beauty club soared. I not only escaped trouble, but also received free advertisement. 2 weeks later, the entire imperial palace was bustling with preparations for a grand banquet to welcome envoys from the Crimson Flame Kingdom. It was said that this time, Crimson Flame had sent their third prince, bringing many valuable tributes and a challenge. As imperial concubine Zai, nominally favored, I naturally had to attend. While other concubines wore elaborate robes, their hair heavily adorned with gold and jade pins to compete for favor. I chose a simple, pale blue dress with only a wooden hairpin in my hair. It wasn't because I was refined, but because I needed to be flexible enough to run if anything went wrong. The banquet took place in the Hall of Supreme Harmony. Fine wine, beautiful dances, good music, but the atmosphere was as tense as a string about to snap. The Crimson Flame envoy, a scruffy, boorish man, stood up, raising a crystal vase containing a clear liquid. To His Majesty, Emperor of Great Zhou, our Crimson Flame Kingdom has a sacred water. We hear Great Zhou's talents are as numerous as autumn leaves. Today, I wish to wager. If anyone can make this clear water turn blood red without adding any dye, Crimson Flame will present 3 border cities as tribute. If no one can, Great Zhou must cede the iron mine in the south to us. The entire court stirred. Officials, ministers, and learned scholars eagerly came forward to smell and taste it. Some almost vomited, others tried burning it with fire, but the water remained stubbornly clear as if just drawn. Zhao Xingzhai sat on the dragon throne, his expression calm, but his hand on the dragon armrest was tightly clenched. He knew this was a trap. If Great Zhou lost, they would not only lose land but also lose face before neighboring countries. Concubine Hua, sitting beside him, suddenly had a malicious idea. She whispered something into the Empress's ear. The Empress smiled, speaking with a dignified voice. "Your Majesty, your humble concubine remembers that Imperial Concubine Zai is skilled in many strange arts. Last time, she miraculously made eunuch Li young again. Perhaps Imperial Concubine Zai could try." All eyes turned to me. I was sitting in a secluded corner, silently gnawing on a chicken leg and nearly choked when my name was called. Concubine Hua chuckled, her eyes full of provocation. "Little sister Zai, you are so skilled, surely this won't be too difficult for you? Don't let Great Zhou lose face." This was forcing me into a corner. If I succeeded, I would offend Crimson Flame. If I failed, I would become an eternal sinner of Great Zhou. I wiped my mouth and slowly stood up. Zhao Xingzhai looked at me, his deep eyes held both inquiry and trust. I looked at the Crimson Flame envoy, then at the vase of sacred water. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out into the center of the hall. "Just turning water red? Too simple." I shrugged, my tone more disdainful than the envoy's. "I thought you were challenging us to turn stone into gold." The Crimson Flame envoy snorted. "A girl whose mouth still smells of milk, don't boast." I walked up to Zhao Xingzhai, knelt, but kept my eyes fixed on him, raising 3 fingers. "Your Majesty, if your humble concubine solves this problem, I want 10% of the profits from the 3 cities Crimson Flame is about to offer." The officials and ministers took a sharp intake of breath. This woman is crazy, daring to bargain with the emperor in the middle of a grand diplomatic banquet. Zhao Xingzhai paused for a second, then a captivating, wicked smile played on his lips. He nodded decisively. "Very well, we permit it. We will even reward you an additional 1,000 taels of gold." Money is motivation. I turned and walked to the vase. I had carefully observed the water. It had a slightly pungent odor characteristic of a strong alkaline solution. Making it turn red was easy. I just needed a color indicator. Phenolphthalein wasn't available here, but I pulled out a fresh turmeric root I always carry in my sleeve in case of instant poisoning and an acidic salt I found at the pharmacy. Turmeric turns alkaline solutions reddish-brown, not impressive enough. I glanced around and saw a plate of red hibiscus flowers used for decoration on the banquet table. Bingo! I calmly picked up a hibiscus flower, crushed it in my hand, then put it into a cup of white wine to extract a pale purple juice. Then I poured the envoy's sacred water into a large bowl and slowly poured in the hibiscus juice. "Everyone, watch closely. This is not magic. This is a chemical reaction." Everyone held their breath. The moment the juice touched the sacred water, the entire bowl of water burst into a vibrant green color. "Oops, wrong color," I mumbled. "Forgot hibiscus turns green with alkali." The envoys burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha, where's the red? This is green." I calmly raised my hand. "Not finished yet. This is just step 1, purifying evil energy." I quickly grabbed a bottle of vinegar acetic acid from the banquet table and poured it vigorously into the green water. Fizz, the green color immediately vanished, replaced by a brilliant blood red, hauntingly beautiful. The entire hall was silent as a tomb. The crimson flame envoy's eyes bulged like a snail's. I raised the bright red bowl of water, smiling radiantly. Envoy, is this red enough, or would you like me to make it burst into flames? Applause thundered like a storm. Zhao Xingzhai shot to his feet, his eyes shining brightly, filled with undisguised possessiveness and pride. I placed the bowl down, dusted off my sleeves, and winked at Zhao Xingzhai. Your Majesty, remember to transfer the funds soon. Your humble concubine doesn't do credit. Just as I was at my most smug, a chilling, murderous aura swept over me. The crimson flame envoy was either enraged, or perhaps he was an assassin planted all along. He pulled out a hidden dagger from his sleeve, lunging straight towards Zhao Xingzhai, shouting, "Dog Emperor, die!" Everything happened too fast. The Imperial guards were too far to react. Zhao Xingzhai had no weapon, and I was standing between the two men. According to a romance novel script, the heroine would rush out to block the blade. But I am Zai Lingyi. I love money and I love my life. I reflexively squatted, and the dagger asterisk whooshed over my head, asterisk thudding into the chicken leg on concubine Hua's banquet table behind me. Ah, concubine Hua shrieked in terror, fainting on the spot. Zhao Xingzhai seized the opportunity, delivering a kick that sent the assassin flying 3 meters, spitting blood. The Imperial guards immediately swarmed in to subdue him. Zhao Xingzhai didn't even look at the assassin but knelt to look at me, squatting on the ground, hands covering my head. He chuckled, reaching out to pull me up. Imperial concubine Zai, we thought you would block the dagger for us. I stood up, dusting off my dress, my face nonchalant. Your Majesty certainly has a playful sense of humor. Your martial arts are superior. Why would your humble concubine try to show off before an expert? Besides, if your humble concubine died, who would spend the gold you just promised to reward? Zhao Xingzhai looked at me, his eyes suddenly becoming strangely gentle. He clasped my hand in front of all the civil and military officials, declaring loudly, Imperial concubine Zai rendered meritorious service by saving us, even if she squatted down. Her wisdom is extraordinary, bringing glory to great Zhou. We hereby appoint her as Imperial concubine Zai, Zhai, and bestow upon her a golden death exemption tablet. I clutched the golden tablet in my imagination, screaming inwardly, I'm rich. With this golden tablet, I can do whatever I want later on. With a death exemption tablet in hand, I was like a tiger with wings, swaggering through the harem as if it were a marketplace. Business at Zai's club prospered even more. Concubine Hua, though foolish, came from a powerful family. If she was confined, the person behind her, Empress Shangyuan, would certainly not sit still. Empress Shangyuan Wan, was a dignified and virtuous empress who practiced vegetarianism and chanted Buddhist scriptures all year round, and never raised her voice at anyone. But based on my experience reading 7749 palace intrigue novels, those who smile and speak softly, clutching prayer beads, are usually the ones who stab people most sweetly. One beautiful afternoon, Zhao Xingzhai skipped court duties again and snuck to my Yangtze palace to demand payment. Imperial consort Zai, where's this month's 40% profit? He sprawled on my imperial concubine's couch, fanning himself, looking like a rogue, completely different from his demeanor in court. I reluctantly pulled out a stack of silver notes, slammed them on the table. Here's yours, take it and leave. Your humble concubine still has new dishes to research. Zhao Xingzhai took the money, his eyes lighting up, but he didn't leave immediately. Instead, he curiously peered into the large bowl I was stirring. What is that black stuff you're making? Poison. Poison your head? I glared at him. This is black sugar pearls, the soul of the royal milk tea that your humble concubine is about to launch. One sip and you'll forget your way home. I scooped out a bowl of milk tea, added some chewy pearls, and offered it to him. Your Majesty, please taste it. Consider it my treat, no charge. Zhao Xingzhai looked at the cloudy brown liquid, his face full of skepticism, but trusting my cooking skills, he took a big gulp. Chewy, sweet, a fragrant tea taste. Before he could finish his praise, his expression suddenly changed. The teacup in his hand fell to the ground, shattering. Zhao Xingzhai clutched his chest, his face turning purple, a stream of black blood oozing from the corner of his mouth. Lingyi, the tea is poisoned. He collapsed onto the floor, convulsed a few times, then fell unconscious. I froze for 3 seconds. What? I poisoned him? Am I crazy to kill my golden goose? This bowl only has tapioca flour, brown sugar, and Thai Nguyen tea. Your Majesty, Zhao Xingzhai, don't you dare die. You haven't paid me for your image rights yet. I rushed over, intending to check his pulse, when bang, the door of Yangtze Palace was kicked open. As if they had been waiting, Empress Shangyuan led a squad of imperial guards storming in. Her face no longer held its fake, gentle expression, but was as cold as a stone statue. Guards, arrest Zai Lingyi. She dared to poison and assassinate the emperor. Before I could open my mouth to explain, 2 burly soldiers had me pinned to the ground. A fake eunuch beside the empress quickly pulled out a silver hairpin and poked it into the spilled milk tea on the floor. The hairpin immediately turned pitch black. The evidence is undeniable. What do you have to say? Shangyuan Wan looked at me as if looking at a dead ant. Take her to the imperial prison and await the emperor's awakening for judgment. If anything happens to His Majesty, your entire clan will be exterminated. I was dragged away roughly. Turning my head back, I saw the imperial physicians surrounding Zhao Xingzhai, the scene utterly chaotic. But there was something strange. Just now, when I touched Zhao Xingzhai's hand, I secretly pressed hard on his hegu acupuncture point. If he were truly unconscious, his muscles would be relaxed. But his fingers twitched slightly, then lightly scratched my palm twice. 2 scratches, meaning, go along with it. The imperial prison, the palace's 1,000-star hotel. I was thrown into the VIP cell for high-profile imperial criminals. 4 damp stone walls covered in green moss. On the ground, rotten straw gave off a musty smell. My cellmates were rats as big as calves and cockroaches running a marathon. Tisk, poor hygiene. I should rate it 1 star on TripAdvisor. I dusted off the straw and found the driest corner to sit down. No crying, no screaming, no, oh Lord Bao, such an injustice. Like those TV drama heroines, I knew this was a trap, but also a grand play. The poison in the milk tea was definitely secretly placed by the Empress's people. She wanted to seize this opportunity to eliminate me, the thorn in her side, and also strike a blow to the emperor's face for daring to infringe upon her family's power. But who was Zhao Xingzhai? He was an old fox. He drank that bowl of tea without hesitation and even gave me a signal, proving he knew in advance and was using her scheme against her. The question was, how long would I have to stay here, and how would overtime pay be calculated? Hey, brother rat, how much gold do you think a day in prison should cost? I poked the rat gnawing on a moldy bun. The rat squeaked once, and I took it as agreement to 100 taels. As night fell, the air in the prison became bone-chilling. Soft footsteps echoed, distinct from the heavy tread of the guards. A cloaked figure appeared before my cell door. The person signaled the guard to retreat, then personally unlocked the iron gate. The door opened, and the person pulled back their hood, revealing a handsome, sharp face under the flickering torchlight. It was none other than the victim, Zhao Xingzhai. He looked at me, sitting cross-legged, training the rats, a twitch in his lips. We were worried about you outside, and here you are training rats. I stood up, tossed the rat aside, and dusted off my hands. What do you want your humble concubine to do? Cry and bash my head against the wall to commit suicide? Your humble concubine values this beautiful forehead too much. Zhao Xingzhai stepped in, casually closing the door. He looked me up and down, and seeing that I was unharmed, not even a scratch, he breathed a sigh of relief. The poison in the tea was red-crowned crane poison, a potent venom. Fortunately, we took the antidote beforehand and used our inner energy to expel the poison immediately. Otherwise, you would be a widow by now. A widow? We're not even properly married yet. Oh, wait, we don't even have feelings for each other, I pouted. You're playing it too well. I almost believed I accidentally put rat poison in it. Zhao Xingzhai chuckled, stepping closer and sitting down on the pile of straw beside me, not minding the dirt. If we didn't play it well, how could we lure the snake out of its hole? Shangyuan Wan has endured humiliation for so many years, but finally her patience has run out. She dared to poison us right here in Yangtze Palace. Her goal was two-pronged, to kill us to install her puppet crown prince and to frame you to silence you. His eyes grew cold, radiating intense killing intent. This time, we will uproot the entire Shangyuan clan. I nodded. This script sounds familiar, like those palace intrigue dramas I used to watch. So, what's my mission? I asked, getting to the point. You'll stay here for a few days, he said casually. Outside, we will pretend to be in a deep coma. Shang Yuan Wan will seize this opportunity to force our hand and bring her father into court as regent. When they reveal their true colors, we will capture them all in one fell swoop. Stay here, I jumped up. In this desolate place where dogs eat rocks and chickens eat pebbles, with rotten rice, murky water, and mosquitoes everywhere. Zhao Xingzhai looked at me, his eyes suddenly becoming gentle. He reached into his robe and pulled out a fragrant roast chicken leg wrapped in oil paper. We know you're a picky eater. This is for you. I looked at the chicken leg, then at him. I suddenly thought this emperor wasn't so bad, at least he was considerate. I took the chicken leg, bit into it heartily, and while chewing noisily started to name my price. 1 chicken leg isn't enough. Emotional damage for sitting in prison, 1,000 taels of gold. Fee for successfully playing the role of eternal sinner, 500 taels, plus overtime pay for night work. Total, 2,000 taels of gold. Deal. Zhao Xingzhai burst out laughing, reaching out to wipe a trace of grease from the corner of my mouth. You are truly a merchant. All right, we accept the deal, but on one condition. What condition? I asked warily. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, after this incident, the harem will be very empty because we've cleaned it out. You must take responsibility for filling it, or at least helping us manage it. We don't want to recruit any more concubines. It's a dreadful hassle. I was stunned. Did he mean he wanted me to be the mistress of the harem, or did he want to only favor me? My heart skipped a beat. No, Xiling, you must stay clear-headed. Men are fleeting, money is eternal. We'll discuss that later. I avoided his burning gaze. Now, please leave before you're discovered. Remember to send more comforters and snacks in here, okay? Oh, and a deck of cards. I'll teach these guards to play cards. Zhao Xingzhai stood up, looked at me deeply, then finally left. Before he went, he turned back and said, wait for us, just 3 days. We will personally come to pick you up. By then, you will be the most powerful woman in Great Zhou, second only to us. The iron door clanged shut. I sat in the darkness, gnawing on the rest of the chicken leg, thinking to myself, most powerful? HMPH, this lady only wants to be the richest person in Great Zhou. 3 days in prison flew by in a flash, mainly because I was busy teaching the guards to play cards and won all their monthly salaries. Early on the 4th day, the atmosphere in the imperial prison suddenly became strangely tense. The bugle signaling the early court session sounded, echoing throughout the imperial palace. The prison door opened. But this time, it wasn't Zhao Xingzhai, but eunuch Li, accompanied by a squad of imperial guards in shining armor. Imperial consort Zai, please follow this old servant. The time has come. I dusted off my bottom, stood up, and threw the deck of cards to the ground, smirking. Finally, I can get some fresh air. Let's go, don't keep the audience waiting. Golden Lewin Hall was packed with civil and military officials that day. The atmosphere was suffocating and heavy, as if a great storm was brewing. The dragon throne was empty, beside it hung a pearl curtain. Empress Shang Yuan sat behind the curtain, acting as regent, clutching prayer beads, her demeanor solemn. At the head of the civil officials stood the prime minister, concubine Hua's father, who had now sided with the empress. At the head of the military officials was Grand General Shang Yuansheng, the empress's father. I was escorted into the hall, my hands adorned with shackles props Zhao Xingzhai prepared, made of lightweight resin. Criminal Xiling, kneel. Grand General Shang Yuansheng roared, his voice like thunder. I stood tall, looking him straight in the face. I have not been deposed. I am still an imperial consort of His Majesty. Who are you to order me to kneel? You, Shang Yuansheng was so furious his beard and hair stood on end. Empress Shang Yuan from behind the curtain spoke in a cold voice. Xiling, you poisoned and attempted to assassinate the emperor. The evidence is undeniable. His Majesty is currently unconscious, his life hanging by a thread. How dare you still speak so boldly? She turned to the civil and military officials, declaring in a loud voice, the nation cannot be without a ruler for a day. His Majesty's health is precarious, and he has no heir. This concubine proposes establishing the 5-year-old 6th prince as crown prince, with the Grand General as regent, to punish the demoness Xiling and appease heaven and earth. We agree, we agree. More than half of the court officials simultaneously knelt and shouted. Clearly Shang Yuan's family had bribed almost the entire court. They wanted to seize this opportunity to force an abdication, turning Zhao Xingzhai into a puppet or dethroning him entirely. I looked around, clicking my tongue. Tisk tisk, quite a lively gathering, but it seems you all forgot one thing. What thing? Empress Shangyun asked. You forgot to ask if your biggest creditor agrees or not. I raised my hands and yanked hard. Clink, the chains broke, they're just plastic. I reached into my sleeve and pulled out a thick ledger, its cover inscribed, Harem Debt Ledger, Volume 1. What is that? The officials whispered amongst themselves. I flipped open the ledger and read aloud. On the 15th of last month, Imperial concubine Shangyuan, the Empress's cousin, lost 500 taels of gold playing mahjong, paid with a silver note from Tongbao Bank. On the 20th, concubine Hua bought a VIP package worth 1,000 taels of gold, paid with gold ingots cast in the shape of gourds. On the 25th, the Grand General's wife visited the Empress in the palace, stopped by my gambling den for some cultural exchange, and lost 3,000 taels of silver, paid with military provisions stamped by the Ministry of Revenue. I closed the ledger and looked at Shangyuan, whose face had turned pale. Grand General, I originally just intended to earn some pocket money, but I unexpectedly discovered something interesting when counting the funds. The gold and silver your families used for debauchery in my palace were all embezzled disaster relief funds and border military provisions. The entire court gasped in horror. Embezzling military provisions is a crime punishable by extermination of the entire clan. Spreading slander, Shangyuan roared, drawing the sword from his hip and charging at me. Kill her, kill this madwoman immediately. Who dares? A powerful shout echoed from behind the screen behind the dragon throne. The screen crashed down, and Zhao Xingzhai stepped out, resplendent in brilliant golden imperial robes, holding the imperial sword, his expression cold, radiating intense killing intent. There was no sign whatsoever of being poisoned or unconscious. Your Majesty, Empress Shangyuan dropped her prayer beads. Shangyuan froze, the sword clattering from his hand. Zhao Xingzhai descended the steps. He walked to my side, wrapped an arm around my waist, and pulled me close, declaring his ownership. We only slept for a moment, and you ministers already wish to sell out the country for glory and even want to kill our money god. Your Majesty, spare us, we were forced. The fickle officials immediately changed allegiance, kneeling and kowtowing like chopping wood. Zhao Xingzhai didn't bother to look at them but stared directly at Shangyuan and the Empress. Shangyuan, you abused your power and influence, embezzled military provisions, conspired to usurp the throne. Empress Shangyuan, you colluded with imperial relatives, poisoned us, harmed loyal officials. The evidence collected by imperial consort Zai, combined with the list of your factions we have investigated for so long, isn't that enough to exterminate your 9 generations? Empress Shangyuan gave a tragic smile, knowing the tide had turned. She looked at me with eyes full of hatred. Zai Lingyi, I lost not because of Zhao Xingzhai. I lost because I never imagined there would be a concubine in this world so greedy for money that she examines every stamp on silver ingots like you do. I shrugged, nestling into Zhao Xingzhai's arms to look more like a favored concubine. The Empress flatters me too much. Occupational hazard, Your Majesty. In business, cash flow must be transparent. Zhao Xingzhai waved his hand. Guards, imprison the Shangyuan family in the dungeons awaiting immediate trial, confiscate all their assets to the public treasury. As you command, the imperial guards stormed in, dragging the rebels away. Cries filled the heavens and shook the earth. When the great hall had been cleared, with only the loyal officials remaining, Zhao Xingzhai turned to look at me, his gaze so gentle it gave me goosebumps. You have performed a great service this time. What reward do you wish for? Shall we make you Empress? I jumped, waving my hands frantically. No, please. If I become Empress, I'll have to manage all the harem's accounts and be a role model, not allowed to open gambling dens, not allowed to sell homemade creams. It's so boring. Your humble concubine just wants to be a leisurely imperial noble consort, just counting money all day. Zhao Xingzhai chuckled, pinching my cheek. Very well, we'll indulge you. From now on, you are imperial noble consort Zai, with authority over the 6 palaces. But then he leaned close to my ear and whispered the familiar words, business profits, 50-50, okay. Kingdoms are easy to change, but stinginess is hard to get rid of. 45-55, don't haggle. I bargained right there in the Golden Lewin Hall. Deal. Zhao Xingzhai burst into hearty laughter, pulling me tightly into his embrace. Very well, a gentleman's word. But tonight, Empress, you must work overtime to make it up to us, okay? Overtime must have an overtime fee. My entire person and this entire kingdom are already yours, yet you still demand a fee. He leaned down, cutting off my haggling with a deep kiss. All right, a small loss is fine, I thought. After all, this item is of excellent quality, durable and good-looking. 10 years later, Great Zhou, under the rule of Emperor Zhao Xingzhai and Empress Zai Lingyi, entered an unprecedented era of prosperity. Commerce flourished. Disguised gambling dens, entertainment clubs, royal milk tea chains, and beauty spas sprang up like mushrooms across the capital, even exporting to the neighboring Crimson Flame Kingdom. In the Imperial Garden, an adorable, chubby 5-year-old boy was squatting on the ground, counting his red envelope loot. Mama, this year I collected 500 taels, 20 taels less than last year. I was lying on my Imperial noble consort's couch, wearing a cucumber mask while giving instructions. That's not good enough. You need to learn to give a more professional smile when receiving red envelopes from officials. Next time, remember to cry a little louder if they give you too little. Zhao Xingzhai sat beside me, peeling grapes for me to eat, shaking his head resignedly. Don't spoil the crown prince. He's only 5, and he already knows how to lend money at high interest to the eunuchs in the palace, who will dare to be an official in court under him later. I chewed noisily, shrugging. A chip off the old block, he takes after both of us. He has your cunning nature and my love for money. It's perfect, isn't it? Zhao Xingzhai chuckled, his eyes full of indulgence. He leaned down and whispered in my ear, perfect indeed. But we find the crown prince a little lonely. How about we create another princess so he has someone to count money with? I glared at him but couldn't hide a happy smile at the corners of my lips. Want to create a princess, do you? All right, but childbirth fees, beauty damage fees, and so on you'll have to bear 100% of those, okay? As you command, my empress. The spring wind blew through, carrying the scent of peach blossoms and the smell of ink on silver notes. My transmigration life from a disgraced concubine who almost starved to death had now become a legend. I didn't need to fight for favor, nor did I need schemes or tricks. I just needed to live true to myself, genuinely love money, and love the man who was willing to indulge all my bad habits. Happiness, sometimes, is simply growing old together, counting money.